Hello and welcome. This is Introductory Volunteering, and it is part one of a module of likely quite a few modules. This course is designed to help you begin a new journey in an organization that has and asked the Institute of Regional Development to help them train you. So today we're going to be starting with volunteering. All volunteers, all new recruits start with this course. After this course, there may be other things, other courses that might change depending on your organization or your job role. But I wanted to go into what this course is for and what it's not for. This is a very introductory course. It is not going to tell you everything about volunteering for every organization you'll ever be with. It's probably not going to tell you much about the volunteering, the organization that you are working for now. But it's going to give you a basic overview and some basic bullet points and guidelines to ensure that you have a healthy and wonderful relationship with people that you're working with and a long-standing, wonderful commitment to the organization as you serve. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to have just a few understandings and bullet points. Then we're going to go into some deeper topics about them and some discussion. And then lastly, we're going to have a quiz. So after this video, there will be a quiz that you're able to take. And in that quiz, once you pass it, you can go on to the next video. If you don't pass this quiz, it will not go on to the next video, and you'll have to tell your administrator that you need a reset. So let's get started on today's lesson. We are going to start with the most important topic when we're talking about volunteering, and that is communication. Communication is a huge deal. It's a big, 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 big deal because communication is what keeps us all together. As volunteers, there is not money that is a driving factor in keeping you doing things when things might not make sense, or maybe someone didn't get enough information or gave too little information, or maybe gave too much information about something they didn't need to give on. And we have to find a way to keep things together and to keep everybody moving on the same page and going in the same direction consistently. Communication is a big part of that. And so when we're volunteering, we want to understand that everybody be on the same page, whether it be language, how we talk, the culture of the community, the culture and environment of the organization, what the bylaws say, what articles of corporation say, what the mission of the community is, as well as individually what you look and expect in an organization. When you're communicating, you want to ensure that you are comfortable and you are happy and you feel good. Understand that not all organizations are for everybody. If in your communication at any point you feel that maybe this is not the place for you, and you've communicated very clearly what your concerns are, or maybe some things in the culture just don't vibe with your energy, that's not what you like to do, communicate that as well, and understand that lastly, everybody does not communicate the same way. Everybody doesn't have the same morals, the same upbringings, the same priorities, or the same understandings. And it is important for you to find a place where communication is in line with the way you communicate and the way you like to be communicated to. Timeliness in communication. When we are talking about communication, timeliness is important. For example, we're just going to off bat let you know that communication needs to be done at least 48 hours before something needs to be done. So if you need to pull the trigger on something, please give 48 hours for communication when you're volunteering. Because in volunteering, as I said, there's not money as a factor. This is a lot of people's not main priority. It's not normally their 9 to 5 or their main job. And so they have other things to do. They have other priorities that come before their volunteering. Understand that you might not get a response in 24 hours in this endeavor. You might get a response in 48 hours. Allow time for people to need to wait and to get to their email or wait to respond to you. So 48 hours off bat is a very important factor. Please remember, it will be on the quiz. 48 hours, not 24 hours, not 4 hours, not 6 hours. If you need to do anything that is less than 48 hours out, you need to call and get someone on the phone. You need to hear a voice. Do not send a text message. Do not send an email. Please get somebody on the phone and keep calling around until you get someone on the phone if it's less than 48 hours out, to give people time to make changes or to move things around. This goes for anything. It goes for if you find out you're going to have to be late for something or you can't come at all. If you find out that you thought you had a yes on a commitment and all of a sudden that commitment is saying no and the event is coming up very soon. Anytime that it's going to be important for somebody to know something that needs to be taken care of within 48 hours and it's less than 48 hours, communication needs to be a phone call. You need to have somebody voice on the phone or in person as well. Which moves to my next point. When we're talking about in person, documentation of communication. If you talk about something on the phone or in person. It also needs to be documented that you spoke about it, what you spoke about, when you spoke about it, and have a confirmation of the other person saying, yes, this is what we spoke about. And that is very important. It's very important because sometimes things get misconstrued or get forgotten about, especially in the volunteer world, that things like grants or conferences coming up or submissions for something or written input. We might not hear about those things for 3 or 4 months. And we really want to make sure that looking back, if we have to ask whose job was this, whose responsibility was it, what happened to this, why the ball dropped, or also you want to give kudos to say who did a great job, or who's the person that, wrote this wonderful paper, or who's the person that made the suggestion about this. It's very important that all communication be documented. Meeting notes need to be taken and put somewhere where people can remember them. Also put for everybody to read them, share the meeting notes when available as well. But there needs to be consistent documentation of communication. Everything should be documented. A text message is not enough of a documentation. Neither is, oh, so-and-so was here with me when this happened, or, oh, you remember? I don't remember, because so many things happen and it can be months. So make sure anytime you have a phone call, anytime that you have an in-person meeting, if you have a meeting, there should be an email or a follow-up letter that states what was said, what was agreed to, what's going to happen moving forward, and also a way for people to know who was there, who was supposed to understand, and have that person also give feedback saying, received, I understand this, yes. So there is a track and a record of all communication. Documentation of communication is very important. Let's go into professional communication. In volunteering, sometimes we work long hours and sometimes we work non-regular hours, and we can get very familiar, very comfortable. It is very important that we remain professional in our communication at all times, because you want no one to get offended, you want no one to feel uncomfortable, you don't want to misread any situations or any relationships. We want to understand and just make it a blanket rule that all relationships are professional at all times. There is no friendship. Although we can become friends, first and foremost, our professional relationship is the most important, because it is what helps the organization stay together and stay solid. So we want to protect it at all times. Let's never, while working at all, dip below professional communication, meaning no vulgarity. Vulgarity is not tolerated at any time. No sexual content, no references to dating, no references to anything sexual at all. Definitely no references to anyone's religion, please, or politics. I know that we may work in a lot of political settings, especially in diplomatic settings, but let's not have that be part of our communication in our relationships or personal relationships. Let's leave that for forums. Let's leave that for debates. Let's leave that for meetings. And also religion as well. We come from a vast array of religions and beliefs, and we want to respect everyone's religion and belief. And so for the blanket of all organizations, we're going to just steer away from those conversations unless it is prompted in a forum or in a meeting that is geared towards that for the purpose of the organization. But for as personal conversations or side conversations or personal relationships, even if it's outside of work or outside of volunteering and you are on your own time, let's just steer away for those conversations so that everybody can remain happy and comfortable and we can all work together a long time. And lastly, nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is, you see, nonverbal communication are those little things that we can do with our facial muscles or with our hands or with our bodies. It could even be the fact that we did not speak, or maybe how long we took to speak. All of those things are part of nonverbal communication, and they count as communication. You will be held accountable to the nonverbal communication that you give just as much as you do the verbal communication. You will be held responsible for the effects of the nonverbal communication that you give as much as the verbal communication, because it's important for people to feel comfortable, and we want to ensure that people's feelings are heard and they do feel valid when communicating about things they may feel that you might not have actually said. So please take note and understand that in the organization that you're being trained for, nonverbal communication will be important, and you will be responsible for the effects of your nonverbal communication. So in order to be able to keep that all happy for everybody, let's maintain a smiling face as much as possible. Let's maintain an upright stance as much as possible. Let's keep our hands and our legs to ourselves and inside of our personal space, our personal box, so never outward. We also, and I learned this in Disney, never point with one finger, always two, maybe three. It's even better if you have to point at anything. And also, you can guide, so you're never pointing at anyone. Just a few things that we can add to make sure. Additionally, sitting up straight when people are talking, looking at them, making eye contact as much as possible. So, looking like this while somebody is talking or giving a speech, rolling in your chair, doing things like this, not appropriate at all. And it doesn't make people feel welcome. It doesn't make them feel heard. It doesn't make them feel that you respect them most of the time. So we want to ensure that we are sitting up straight. We are looking attentive. If for some reason you are unable to, especially if it is on a Zoom call or something of that nature, please let the person hosting, let the person speaking know that you have some sort of issue that is going on and you will not be able to put on your camera, but do let them know as well. Please be respectful of other people, be respectful of their feelings, and understand that people don't know what you don't share with them. And that is also a part of nonverbal communication. And that is our segment on communication. So just to go back over that for the quiz, you'll be going over the timeliness in communication. 48 hours is the amount of time that you should give if it's going to be an email or a text message. Anything less than that, you should have a phone call or in-person conversation. We also went over conversation, making sure and ensuring that all of our communication is documented verb in an email or a letter. There are many notes. So just because we've had a conversation about something or we talk does not mean that it is documented. We need to document it on top of it and also have some kind of confirmation of receipt from the person that was included in that discussion. We went over personal communication and then went over how to talk and how to speak. You have your professional communication in the ways we're going to communicate with each other, in the way that we're going to allow ourselves to be communicated to, and the way we're going to maintain no matter what we're doing, and no matter what setting that we're in, as long as we are working as part of this organization. We also went over nonverbal communication and understanding that we are responsible for the way our nonverbal communication make other people feel, as well as we will be held responsible for the effects of our nonverbal communication as much as we will our verbal communication. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is proactivity. So proactivity is something we want to ensure that as a volunteer we are interested in, and we are adding to our repertoire and our tool belt of being a volunteer. Proactivity is the ability to foresee what needs to be done, make a plan for it. Don't start on it just yet, but maybe bring it to the attention of the person that is in charge of what you're working on, unless you are the chair of a committee or you are maybe the head of your department. Then maybe proactivity is taking care of it and getting it done all the way. But we want to ensure that we are always being a help and not a hindrance. We don't want to wait for things to be given for us to do. If we are in a place where everything is going well and we are done with what we've worked on for whatever project it is that the organization is currently working on or getting up towards, and you see something that could be done, please pitch in. If you see that something is upcoming and you have extra time that you can work on it, bring it to somebody's attention. Maybe make a plan for it and say, hey, I noticed that this is down the pipeline. Or if you see something that could be of help. Overall, we want to get into just saying, if you see something, say something. If you see an area where we can improve or we can grow, if you see an event that might be good for your organization to participate in, if you see an opportunity that might be good for your organization to benefit from, be proactive about sharing it. Be proactive about, helping out with getting it done. If you see an opportunity for written input that would be very beneficial for a publication under the organization's name that you're working for, let them know. Bring it up. Start ask if you can work on it. Ask if you can write for it. Basically, be a help in understanding that it's up to us as volunteers to make sure that the job gets done. That is, at the end of the day, our goal. We should have a vision. The leader of your organization should be casting a vision for where it is that you're going. And if there's somewhere that you see there's a hole that you can fill, go ahead, be proactive and help and try to help us fill those gaps. What we don't want to do is somebody who saddlebags by waiting and saying, oh, well, no one's giving me anything to do, so I'm just here. If you were there, there's always something to do. There's always a way that you can help. Just ask. If you have nothing to do and you finish what you do, let someone know as well. Be proactive about helping us get the job done and completing our goals. So in proactivity, basically, just to recap, as this is a very short section, we want to ensure that we are, one, letting people know if there's something we can take on. We are ensuring that if you have nothing to do, you bring it up to someone. I would say within a week of nothing to do. So if you usually have a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting, in between those meetings, if you finish the things that you were supposed to do between the next meeting, unless it was 7 days between meetings. If you have weekly meetings, I'd say 2 meetings if you have nothing to do for 2 meetings. If it's a monthly meeting, let's say you meet the first Tuesday of the month. If by the second Tuesday of the month, you've already completed what it is that you were assigned to do, let someone know. Don't wait an entire month and say, I finished that in the first week and then there's nothing. Not to say make yourself a slave or a workhorse, but understand if there is an opportunity for you to help, because there's an opportunity for you to be able to pitch in a little bit more, or obviously if there's 3 weeks, there's something that you can be able to do, even if it's just maybe some correspondence or help maybe finding some new things. And at very least in proactivity, be on the lookout for other things that can be of benefit, things that you can benefit from, opportunities that might be good for your organization to participate in. Be eyes and ears at all times for your organization. Let's move on to our next area of discussion. Commitment. Commitment, 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 commitment. We do not have, and I'm going to say this a lot, we do not have money when you're volunteering to be a factor in making people do what they say they're going to do. All we have is your word. There's not much other than saying you're not a person of your word that we can do if you don't stick to your commitment. And it's very important that you understand that your commitment doesn't just affect the people that you see in the organization. It affects usually whoever that organization is serving, and those people and their children, and those ripple effects and the families beyond, if that help is not received at that time, you don't know what could happen. So please understand that your commitment does not just affect you or the people around you. It affects way more people. There's a lot of ripples that your commitment affects if you do not stick to what you say you're going to do. And I know that if you were here, you are a very honorable person. You are full of scruples, and you do what you say you're going to do. And thank you. But just in case there's somebody in this course who needs to hear that, that was for them. We'll say that. It all comes down to honoring your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say that you're going to be somewhere, be there. If you say that you can provide something, provide it. You need to ensure that whatever you say you're going to do, you say you're going to do, and you do it. Make that commitment to yourself. If you haven't ever in life, make that commitment to yourself right now that whatever you say you're going to do is something that you're going to do no matter what. You're going to find a way to do it. It is going to get done no matter what. Non-negotiable. I love these things called non-negotiables. I add them to my life a lot. And this is one of the ones I have. If I say I'm going to do something, it will be done. I can't make an excuse for myself. I can't say, well, I thought I was going to, but now that I don't feel good, or I'm tired, or I don't like this person anymore. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I might not ever agree to do anything for you again after this, but if I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So make that commitment to yourself today, right now, to honor your word and be a person of your word from every day from now moving forward. But life is life, and sometimes you just cannot honor your word. Sometimes it is not possible. Sometimes it's an impossibility. What do you do then? Let's talk about timeliness and retractions. When should you retract what you said that you're going to do? If you made a commitment, when should you retract your commitment? As soon as possible. The second you find out you are no longer able to keep that commitment, you should be communicating in writing first and calling second the person you are no longer able to make that commitment to. Immediately, the very second that you know, go ahead and write a letter, send it, and then give them a phone call. Now, mind you, you might not be able to get them on the phone. You might not be able to get them in voice. That's why we sent the letter first, because they might be able to read that much quicker. And then you send a phone call so that you are personable, and you let them understand that you are very remorseful, that you're unable to keep your word, and you give them the reason why you're unable to keep your word, if possible. If not, share that unfortunately you're not able to share why, but you are very sorry that you're not able to keep it, if you are sorry, and tell them immediately. Please do not wait. Don't wait, say I'll tell them tomorrow, because you may forget. And oftentimes we do forget. We are all human. And that might not be the first thing on your mind. That might not be the priority in your brain. So if you don't do it at the very time that you learn that you won't be able to keep your commitment, there's a large chance that you will forget to update the person that you aren't able to keep your commitment, and until right before. Usually what happens is we wait, and then the day of, we're like, oh yeah, you know what? I never told so-and-so that I couldn't do it. And now that person has to scramble that day. Usually day of or day before is not the time that person wants to scramble. And now they have a negative feeling and a negative experience because of your lack of communication. So we want to ensure we tell them immediately. Let's say that you find out on Monday that on Friday you cannot provide the cookies for the bake sale. And that's okay, because now that person has Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to find a replacement for cookies. But let's say you found out Monday and you didn't tell them until Thursday. Well, now that person now has to wait and try to figure this out in one day. And one, that's not fair to that person. But two, it puts them in a bind, and they now have extra stress. And we don't want that to happen at all. So the proper time to have a retraction is immediately. The very second that you learn that you're unable to keep your word, there should be a retraction in letter, by email, and letter, not a text message. And then there should be a phone call. If the person cannot answer the phone, please leave a voicemail. And then you may leave a text message as well to say, hey, this is what I called about. I also send an email, and that will help a lot. It will be a very big help. Documentation of retractions. It is important that when you have a retraction and you send the documentation, that you share who you are, why, what you cannot do, what day it was supposed to be done, what would happen if you don't do it. Because sometimes the person that is over everything might be very, very busy, and they can't remember every single thing that every person was supposed to do. And they may be like, who was supposed to bring the cookies for what? What was the bake sale? And so please say, hi, this is Susan Boyd. I was to bring the cookies for the bake sale at the church on Friday at 5. The bake sale is for the little girls going to camp. I'm not able to bring the cookies. Can you please find someone to replace the cookies at the bake sale? That way, that person doesn't have to sit and think about every single thing going on. They know, hey, this who was it? Susan Boyce. What was it? A bake sale cookie. What, she can't do it. It was for the girls' trip. Oh yeah, the girls are going on a trip. Okay, cool. What do I need to do? Find someone to replace it. Okay, now I can do that and I can move very quickly. So please ensure that your documentation is very full. Don't just say, hey, I'm no longer able to keep my commitment on Friday. Who are you? I have no clue. I don't know. What was the commitment? I don't know. Now we have to go back and forth. This is more time that is being spent that I could be finding a replacement or fixing things. So please ensure that your documentation when you retract things are full detail. Also, ensure that your documentation has a receipt of the retraction, that you have someone got that receipt, that they understand. Have somebody say, I understand. Get an email back. If you don't get an email back or any communication back, they didn't get it. Assume they didn't read it. Please do not send something out. It is not okay to send something out just assuming that someone read it. Not okay. Because what if no one ever got it? What if the email never sent? What if Gmail sent it to spam? And now that day there are no cookies. If you don't get a response, keep communicating different ways until you get a response, until somebody understands there will be no cookies on Friday. It is important and it's up to you. Once you take on a commitment, it is up to you to fill that commitment. Please don't be the person who leaves their commitment open for other people to have to feel without knowing it. So it's very important that you have documentation of the receipt of your retraction from whoever you send it to or somebody. Do not stop until you get a documentation of receipt of that retraction. So just going back over the commitment section, we talked about how important it is to learn and decide to be a person who honors your word. We went over the timeliness and retractions when that should be sent, which is immediately, the very second you learn. We also learned about the way that it should be sent. It should be sent via email or letter first, and then secondly, by voice confirmation via a phone. And then lastly, if not able by voice, leaving a voicemail, and then also a text message communicating, if possible, what the email or message was about, and that there is an email there. We also went over making sure that that documentation we sent over has full detail of what that retraction includes and what needs to be done and who is going to be benefiting. And then lastly, we went over making sure that we have a receipt of the documentation and understanding that without somebody confirming that they've received that documentation, you have to assume that they have not received it and no one knows that you are not able to meet your commitment. And if that is the case, that you are still liable for that commitment and you're still responsible for it until somebody is confirmed that you've retracted it. And that is the section on commitment. So hopefully you've written down those notes because all of that will be on the quiz as well. Let's move into our next section, which is empathy. We want to ensure that we are being empathetic of everybody around us, not only the people that we are serving, because it's easy to be empathetic to people that we can see are visibly suffering, but understanding that the people that we work with, our colleagues, our chairs, our committee members, we are all here for free and we are all serving just as you, but we all also are experiencing life just as you. Everybody can use a bit of grace. Everybody could use a hug. Everybody, don't hug people without their consent, please. Everybody could use warm, loving energy, no matter how they may be coming off. At all times, please be empathetic and understanding that people are people. No matter how well it looks they are or how much it looks that things are together for them, everybody experiences life just the same as you experience life. And we want to ensure that we help everybody to feel good. We want to be also sensitive to others. We want to be sensitive to other situations, others' understandings, others' belief systems, others' religions, others' political beliefs, others' aspirations. And so in this, anytime that you are going to be volunteering or in the presence of people that you're volunteering with, you want to ensure that we are never speaking negative about anything at all, because you don't know who's in the room. You don't know the stances of people in the room. You cannot judge them based on what they might have been saying or what they look like or what they dress like, or just because they're part of a certain organization does not mean they all have the same experiences and beliefs as you. So we're going to ensure to make sure everybody feels comfortable that we never speak negatively about anything, whether that be in a WhatsApp group, whether that be in an email or a text group chain, whether that be on a Zoom before a meeting starts. Just refrain from speaking negatively about anything unless it is prompted in a formal debate or discussion or welcomed in a meeting. But as far as personal discussion or just sharing personal banter, let's stay away from anything that is negative or negative feeling, or it could be misconstrued as anything negative because you don't know who is on the other side of that conversation. For an example, if you don't like maybe the new policy of a president in a certain country, do not share your displeasure in a group. Do not share your displeasure in a text message. Do not share your displeasure at the beginning of the meeting, because there might be somebody on the side who is very for that policy. And we do not want to make any further spaces. We want to bridge gaps and bring us together and allow us to focus on things that we connect on. So it'd be very great to share things positively that you are happy about, even though you being happy about something does not ensure that everybody else will be happy about it. If we stick to sharing things positively, then it's a better chance that more people can at least see the positive aspect of why you're sharing that information. So being sensitive to others means for us making sure that we are only sharing positive aspects about anything. Let's moving on to availability. Now, availability is an important thing because without your availability, there's not any way for you to serve us. Serve the organization that you are currently training for. What does availability look like? Availability can be many things. It can be the ability to do correspondence for people. It could be the ability to show up in person. It could be the ability to lend your thoughts and your understandings and your constructive criticism. It could be the ability for you to consult with your experience and past knowledge of things that you've worked on previously. Just as much could be your ability to donate or to share or to bring people. Your availability can be a wide array of things. So when we're thinking about availability, we're thinking about ways that we can help and benefit the organization, not necessarily just your time, because sometimes time is limited. When you're thinking about your availability, please share with others what you can do. So instead of just corresponding with what people might put out and say, who's available for this event, or who's available to be here for this, or who's available to show up and, explain XYZ or be an ambassador here. If you know that there's something that you are available for, to say, hey, I know that you guys have to fill bags for the lunches on next week. I'm available to help with that if anybody needs help. Now, mind you, they might not need help, but sharing what you're available for is very important, just as much as it's important to be available for things that are asked for. Which moves to my next point, priorities and communication. When it comes to your availability, you have to understand that in choosing to be a volunteer for this organization, it is your job to create a position of priority for this organization. So if every time something comes up, it always comes before the organization, that's not something we can help. Maybe it might be time to reevaluate why you joined or why you choose to join this organization, and if this is something that you could do at this time. And there are times when it's not necessarily the best time for you, but you do believe in the cause, you want to serve other ways, or you want to stay in the loop so that when you are in a better position, you can. It is important to communicate those things. It'd rather you understand and say, hey, I just had a child, or, I just got a new job and I'm doing onboarding. And right now I'm not as available. I cannot communicate as frequently. And I just cannot, stick to commitments that I had set out to when I took on this role. Let someone else take on that and be a person to say, hey, I cannot right now, but as soon as I'm able to, I'd love to come back. You will usually be welcomed back with open arms, gracefully. However, if you don't do those things and you wait until someone has something to say and say, hey, we've noticed that, your performance has really been slacking. You've not been able to show up to meetings. We have not heard from you. There's not been a lot of communication going on. And then you wait and say, oh, well, I've been really busy, or, I got a new job, or, I have a new baby. Although if you had a baby, I think people kind of understand that. They know you had a baby unless you haven't told them. Once you say that afterwards, it kind of comes off as an excuse versus if you step up immediately once you notice that you're not able to keep your commitments or to be an active participant and just bring it forward. So I would say if you go 1 month and you've realized that you are not going to see a near end after 1 month, that is the marker that I would let someone know to say, I think that I should have maybe somebody that take on my position in interim, or just let them know I'm gonna need to step back for a bit because I have, personal commitments and I would love to return when I'm good. But communicating that before somebody has to bring it to your attention is very, 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 very important. Cultural differences. Cultural differences are something we have to work with. We're always going to have to work with, especially in the international diplomatic community. And understanding that there are different ways to say things, different understandings of slang, of words, different tones, intonation is a huge deal, especially in different countries that might be having very different understandings of why someone might use a certain tone or when is appropriate to use a tone. Understanding that when you're having these cultural differences, the main important remembrance is giving grace. giving people the benefit of the doubt that they are not intending to offend you. 9 times out of 10, the person is not intending to offend you. Letting things go, understanding that we might not understand the same things, or maybe there's a reason, maybe something I said that did not have the same meaning or understanding was said to this person, and now they've taken it a certain way that I did not intend, and this is why I'm receiving this feedback. Now, this is not to say we should allow people to have, poor behavior around us or allow people to disrespect us at all. That's not saying that at all. What it's saying is that it's important to give people grace and understand that chances are they are not wanting to create a negative relationship with you. They're not wanting to burn a bridge with you because that's not conducive to what we are likely working towards. Usually, we're all working towards the same goal. We all want to accomplish the same things. So it's important that we understand that it's important to give grace to others and learn to let things go, even if they did mean to offend you. Sometimes it's hard to understand because of cultural differences what you did to offend them or why they would choose to offend you. Or sometimes it's acceptable to offend people in other countries. For instance, maybe in a country it's acceptable to tell you that you've gained weight because they feel that it helps the community out, it helps you out, and they want you to tell them, and you don't know that. Let it go. Just move on and let it go. The main important thing is that the job gets done. Now, if there's something like sexual harassment or actual abuse, please do let someone know. Please do not let anyone disrespect you or verbally abuse you. But if it's something as simple as, oh, wow, you've gained a lot of weight, understand that there may be a huge cultural difference, even in the same country as you. Just different regions can have different cultural differences and understandings, even based on gender. So if it's something that is consistent, that's really upsetting you, please bring it to the attention of someone so that we can get it addressed. But you might have to learn to let a lot of things go for the sake of the common good of getting everything together, barring verbal abuse and outright disrespect. We're not going to, but little things that are just cultural differences, let it go. Language. It is very, very important that you understand, especially when in diplomatic settings, there are many languages being spoken, and sometimes English is not the most important one. It might be Portuguese, it might be Russian, it might be Mandarin. America is not the. I mean, although I love America, America is great. It is not the end all be all every single place that you go. When you go to other countries, their language might be preference, and it's important to understand and to allow for that. Just the same as we do things in English here, in other places, they might do things in their language or a neighboring language, or it might not, might not pay attention to English at all. And that is okay. It's important to learn a few languages. I personally suggest learning the main languages of the United Nations, at least 2 or 3 of them, so that way you can have something, because there might not always be interpretation. Learning languages does not have to be super hard. It can be something that you can be done in your spare time. There's an app called Pimsleur, Pimsleur. The Pimsleur app is The Pimsleur app is able to allow you to learn a language in about a month. You can get very conversational. It is a daily app that gives you 30-minute increments. There's a 7-day free trial. I love it. I've learned Mandarin, I've learned Italian, I've learned French, I've learned a little bit of Croatian. I did try to learn Spanish, but that one didn't work as well for me because I already spoke Spanish. So the style that it teaches in wasn't really effective because I already kind of knew that language. So it might not be beneficial if it's a language that you kind of already know a lot of, because it does start from the very beginning and teaches you in a certain style in a certain way. And it only teaches you certain ways to say certain phrases that you might already have a phrase for, another word for. So if it's a new language that you're starting from scratch, I definitely recommend Pimsleur. So learning languages, I'd suggest at least maybe 2 additional ones outside of English. French is a very great one if you're doing a lot of work for African countries. There are a lot of Francophone states. Also, additionally, Spanish, a very great one as well. There are a lot of Afro-Caribbean places that maybe speak Spanish. There are a lot of Afro-Latin countries that speak Spanish, and Portuguese as well. There are many people that speak Portuguese that are Afro-based. So those are all languages that are helpful. Mandarin is great for international trade, and I love that language as well. It's a very beautiful language, and it also teaches reading. So definitely please start to look into learning different languages, at least conversationally, so that way you can be a volunteer for travel and not have to be very afraid to go and not know any of the language. Now, mind you, learning from app might not get you to where you can go speak on behalf of your organization at the United Nations in French from an app, but it will help you to feel a lot more comfortable in navigating that travel, and also when just, asking for instructions, directions, ordering food, things like that as you travel. So starting that now is very, very important. It takes a while to learn a language, so get on that now. This is week 1 of your course, of your training. I encourage you to pick a language to start learning today. Respectful language. This also goes back to the professional communication we're speaking about. We want to ensure that we are respectful to everybody, no matter the country, no matter the dialect, no matter the language, no matter the community or the understanding of the people. So ensuring that, one, there's never any vulgarity in our speaking, and that we understand that different people and different cultures have different levels of what is respectful. Be mindful of the humor that you use. Be mindful of the way that you speak about certain aspects of things when we're talking in personal conversation, so that you ensure that you are not offending people, because it is very important to understand that just because something is funny to you, or just because you think it's a good, anecdote or a story to share, does not mean it might be the best for someone else of a different culture. So just kind of really think about what we're sharing. Is what we're sharing important? Is it helpful? Is it beneficial to the person we're going to give it to? Would this person say the same 100%? Is it a consensus? If that is a no, perhaps keep it to yourself. Additionally, doing research before you go into a meeting, before you go into a forum, before you go to a conference, please do research on the people speaking and the people that you're becoming in contact to, so you will understand and know about them and about what they have as a background, maybe what languages they speak, maybe where their background is from, where they grew up, where they went to school. And it doesn't have to be a stalker session or anything like that, but you should have a basic understanding so that you can prepare. If you know that that person is from a Latin speaking country and you speak Spanish, and maybe you want to brush up on that a bit before you go to that meeting with them. So that way that could be a point of communication. Not that you communicate completely in Spanish, but a connection point. Also, additionally, if you know that you find that learning that somebody is extremely religious and devout, in one religion specifically, and there are things that are blatantly offensive to that religion. For instance, if you know that a person does not eat pork and you specifically come in making jokes about people who don't eat pork, well, that might not be very funny to them. So understanding where people come from, and also, again, remembering that we're not sharing anything negative or speaking on anyone's religion or beliefs or politics at any time. This is just another point to help you remember how to maintain a professional and happy and pleasant environment for everybody while volunteering. Lastly, we want to remember our end goal, our main goal as volunteers, to get the job done. At the end of the day, the goal that we set, the vision that is cast at the beginning of the job, at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the campaign, whatever is cast, it is our job to see it to completion. It is our job to get that job done. What does that look like? It looks like you making a decision today to ensure that that happens for your organization, for your team. What it also looks like is making sure that we come up with whatever to get to the end of the finish line. If first you don't succeed, try and try again. Come up with different methods, come up with different activities, different things. If you hold a fundraiser for a goal and it doesn't work, it flops, doesn't raise any money, then it's time to create a new thing. Maybe that fundraiser didn't work. Maybe try another approach. Maybe try a silent auction. Maybe, go and raise money yourself. Maybe you have a bake sale. Maybe do something else. But the goal is to get the job done. The number one job of you as a volunteer is to pitch in for that end goal, to see whatever we need to accomplish. If it's having 100 girls go to camp for free, make sure those 100 girls go to camp. If it's to ensure that there's a new library in this community, ensure that library gets built. At the end of the day, before the job is done, it gets done. The job gets done. So that is our lesson for today. Thank you so much for joining me. You're going to go ahead and take that quiz after this, and I will see you for whatever your next cohort is. You're going to do a great job, and welcome to the team.